Hey guys, I've seen some videos going over the best stratagems for Helldivers 2, and I think most of them fundamentally miss the point of this game. You can't just make a tier list like that because Terminids and automatons are fundamentally different enemies that require different solutions. Some stratagems are going to be very effective against the automatons, but can be so bad that they are actually detrimental against the Terminids. The other problem is that not all planets are the same, and while generally any stratagem that's going to be good against the bugs will be good on every planet, if you're facing a bunch of stalkers and hunters, things are going to play out very differently than if you're up against an army of bile spewers. So in this list, I'm going to consider how effective the stratagems are against the Terminids specifically. That said, keep in mind there's a very wide range of stratagems that are very effective and might be on B tier or C tier that you shouldn't overlook, especially because some of them, despite not being as effective as other items or call-ins, are a lot of fun to use and can synergize very well with the right party composition. The bottom tiers I really don't recommend because they are often neither fun nor effective. So let's get started with the Arc Thrower here, which is absolutely S tier. This thing is completely OP. It has unlimited ammo, it has a crazy good range, which might be deceiving, but it's like 50 meters, maybe even more, and it can take down absolutely everything. It can take down large parties of enemies, it can take down chargers, and even Bile Titans. Yes, it's going to take a lot of shots to take down a Bile Titan, but you can absolutely do it. But more importantly, you can take down chargers that are coming at you and kill them before they even reach you, which is absolutely massive. And given you don't really need to aim because of the way the weapon works, where the arc basically goes to the nearest enemies, it's really good at dealing with very annoying enemies that fly around or jump around, like the hunters and the shriekers. So overall, the Arc Thrower is good at everything it does and does everything better than most other support weapons. The only thing that it doesn't do as well as something like the grenade launcher, for example, is the fact that the grenade launcher, which is going to go into A tier here, can destroy nests and is by far the fastest way to destroy eggs. That by itself already makes the grenade launcher a great pick. However, I'm putting it in A tier because it can't really kill chargers. I mean, you can do it, but it's not effective, it's not practical. You need a lot of ammo to do it, and it just takes a lot of time, and it's very risky. The grenade launcher ammo can bounce off the charger and kill you. It's not ideal. And the Bile Titans, it's kind of worthless to even shoot at them with the grenade launcher. That said, it can absolutely obliterate enemy waves, and I'm talking everything from the smallest enemies to the medium armor ones. It kills everything really fast. It's a good alternative if you're in a planet with a lot of bile spewers and you want to use the Arc Thrower, but the Arc Thrower is not as effective against the bile spewers, especially the ones that, tend to hang back and shoot mortar style at you. The Arc Thrower does not have the range to engage them, but the grenade launcher really does. I'm not sure I mentioned this, but the grenade launcher has very limited ammunition, so that is something you need to keep in mind. You always need to be on the lookout for ammo. And another problem it has is that with enemies like the hunters or stalkers, when they catch you, when they jump at you, you don't want to shoot because you're going to blow yourself up, right? So that is kind of a very bad thing to have because hunters are really annoying and you need to switch weapons when that happens, and that takes time, and you might get, instantly stun locked or something and just die as a result of it. Next up we have the autocannon, and this one, it's not as effective against the bugs, though it is a lot of fun to use, but it does require a backpack slot, which automatically just makes it a lot worse than the grenade launcher or the Arc Thrower or other options that don't require a backpack slot. It can kill medium armor enemies very, very quickly. It's good against the spore spewers. It's good against the shrieker nest. You can shoot them from far away. It does take a lot of shots to take them down, but you can absolutely do it. But the EAT, the expendable anti-tank, is better at it. The autocannon is a single target focused weapon. The EAT is better at destroying single targets than the autocannon is, because the autocannon can't really kill a charger head on. You need to wait until it runs past you and shoot the legs, the back legs. It's not super easy to do. and you can't really deal with Bile Titans at all. You can pump them full of rounds and you won't really kill them, which is, I don't know why that's the case. I wish that it was a bit more effective against the Bile Titans, but whatever. And another problem is that it suffers from the same issue as the grenade launcher, which is that you can blow yourself up if something jumps at you. But yeah, I'm gonna put it in B tier. I could see an argument for this even going into C tier. Alright, next up we have the EAT, which is this one right here. And this thing is going straight into S tier, just like the Arc Thrower. With the 70-second cooldown that it has, you can have many of these scattered around a map or an area where you're fighting. You just call them in one after the other one all the time, and you can have like 6 or 8 of these ready to go once a patrol finally hits you, once the Bile Titans start to appear. And with a single one, you can kill a charger with a headshot, or even a Bile Titan. You can one-shot them if you wait for them to start spewing acid and shoot at their mouth. You can one-shot them with this. So this is basically 2 very important kills every 70 seconds. And there's not really another stratagem in the game that allows you to do that, and that allows you to accumulate the stratagem in the same way as the EAT, right? You can't just bank a bunch of uses of the rail cannon strike or a turret or anything, right? You can bank uses of the EAT. That makes it extremely powerful. You can use it also to clear out Shrieker Nests or Spore Spewers very quickly. It's just an amazing addition to any team. I highly recommend at least one of your teammates should be running this, if not yourself, maybe even 2, because at the highest difficulty levels, it's very much needed to deal with the amount of chargers and Bile Titans. Alright, next up we have the EAT's cousin or brother, which is the recoilless rifle, which is this one right here. And this one is gonna go into C tier. Maybe should be B tier, but the problem with the recoilless rifle is that it's worse than the EAT in basically every way. It has a long static reload. You can get 6 shots in 480 seconds, which is a lot less than the EAT. You can have a lot more firepower in that same time frame with the EAT. However, I find it a lot of fun to carry both the recoilless and the EAT, and I will explain why. The recoilless obviously is the same damage profile as the EAT. You can one-shot a charger to the head or a Bile Titan, as I mentioned. And with the EAT, if you're running both of them, when you see something spawn or, the fighting gets heavy, you can use your recoil rifle and then use the EAT, then reload your recoil rifle and fire it again. And that way, you have very, very quick succession, very quick rounds of this rocket, right, that can take down basically the toughest opponents. So if you want to specialize in being the dude that's gonna kill the chargers and the Bile Titans, you can run with both of them, and it's a lot of fun to use. You're not gonna have a lot of impact apart from that, but if you want to specialize on that, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely around this level. Again, these might go up or down one level. It depends on the situation, but the recoilless rifle is effective, but there are better options. Something that's not effective at all is the laser cannon, and this one's gonna go into E tier. There's not a lot to say about it. It's slower at killing enemies than the primary weapon is, or even your secondary weapon, so that makes it instant garbage. It's a single target weapon. It's not even good at killing single targets. It's not fun to use either. You can't really run away or move at all when you're using it. So overall, it's just a bad weapon for the bugs, and even for fighting the automatons, it's also not very good. Next up, the anti-materiel rifle, and this one is gonna go into D tier because it is better than the laser cannon, but it also has a lot of drawbacks. You can only use it in first-person view. It lacks ammunition. You only get 6 shots per reload, and you don't have a lot of magazines to work with. As I mentioned, it's a single target weapon, so you're mostly gonna be prioritizing targets, which is not gonna be super easy to do with a projectile weapon against the bugs, right? So it's clumsy to use. It's not super effective. It's okay at kind of what it does. It's basically a poor man's autocannon. You don't have the same fire rate, you don't have the same amount of ammunition as the autocannon. You do have access to a backpack, but just the amount of reloading you need to do makes it very, very ineffective. Alright, next up, let's talk about the Stalwart and the Machine Gun. And these are going to go into C tier and in the same category, because I used to advocate that the Stalwart was better than the Machine Gun, but now I'm starting to think that it really isn't. They just have different trade-offs. So the Stalwart, you have mobility, right? You can reload it while you're moving, you can control the recoil a bit more effectively, but the problem it has is it does not penetrate medium armor. So those pink guard enemies, you can't really shoot them in the face with it because the shots bounce. The Machine Gun, on the other hand, does not have that problem. The Machine Gun is harder hitting and will absolutely destroy those enemies. Now, neither of them are as good at what they do, which is dealing with multiple enemies, as the Grenade Launcher or the Arc Thrower. They're also not as good at single target enemies as the autocannon is, so that's why they come into C tier here. They are a lot of fun to use. They are fun options, and you can definitely have one of these in your squad to cull the population of small annoying enemies like the hunters and the small little green like bile spewer things, right? So fun to use, not super effective. Also falling into C tier, we have the Flamethrower, and I can see an argument for this being D tier actually, because the problem with the Flamethrower is the lack of range. It can kill sort of quickly. You can kill, for example, a Brute Commander before it actually gets to you, because you will just melt enemies away, but it's too slow at killing chargers, and you don't really have enough range to deal with enemies like the Hunters. The Hunters will just stay out of your range and then jump at you, and then you're shooting fire at the Hunter, and that's gonna make you catch on fire. And also the fact that as you fire at the enemies, you're covering everything on fire. That's reducing your mobility options. If you need to dodge a charger, suddenly the entire ground is on fire and you can't really go anywhere. So I think they really need to up the range on the Flamethrower to make it good, because as it is, I'm almost inclined to say it's worse than both machine guns, because you just need to be so close to actually kill anything, and that puts you in a situation you don't really want to be in. So definitely either C or even D tier here. Alright, moving on, we have the Railgun, and this is gonna go into B tier. They nerfed this a few updates ago, and you know, it used to be S tier for sure, because you could very, very quickly kill a charger with it. Now you can do that, but it's a lot riskier because you gotta overload the weapon. That usually means you want to use it in first person to look at the indicator properly. And you know, if you screw up, you blow yourself up and the weapon, and then you have the weapon on cooldown and you can't use it again. So it's a very risky weapon to use that takes skill, and it's not better at dealing with Bile Titans, or, well, Bile Titans maybe, because you can actually take them down really fast with a few mouth shots or headshots. So that is still very much a thing. But overall, it's not as good in its single target role as the EAT or the Arc Thrower even. Alright, and lastly, we have the Spear, and this one's gonna go into D tier as well, because it's just not reliable enough. It has a very long static reload, same as the recoilless rifle, but with the recoilless rifle, you can be damn sure you're gonna hit what you want to hit. With the Spear, the locking targeting system doesn't really work most of the times, and it can be very hit or miss. Sometimes it will deal a lot of damage, sometimes it will kind of miss. You know, it's just not very good. Alright, let's move on. Actually, before moving on, let's talk about the mech. The current mech that we have, which is the, what is it called? The Patriot Exosuit, is very, very good. This is gonna go into A tier, because though it does have its drawbacks when it is active, the machine gun is absolutely, it's super powerful. It's the same machine gun as the actual machine gun, not the Stalwart, so you can penetrate medium armor with it. You can basically destroy anything that's not a charger or a Bile Titan with it, and for those you have a bunch of rockets that you can just shoot at them and, you know, kill them basically. it's very good. It's super effective at what it does. It would be S tier if there was some way of reloading it, or if you had more uses of it. You currently only have 2 uses, and one of the main problems with it, I would say, is actually 2 main problems are. Number 1, you can very easily get TK'd or just, you know, get destroyed by exploding a barrel when you step on it and stuff like that. So you might lose your exosuit very quickly, and that's going to put you in a very, very bad situation because suddenly you're lacking 1 stratagem. The other problem it has is that you cannot use stratagems or interact with mission objectives when you're in the exosuit. So losing access to everything you have, to all your other stratagems while you're in the exosuit, that's, you know, that's kind of a big hit. In the first game, you were able to use stratagems, so I wonder if that's coming in a future update. If it is, this is definitely going into S tier. But for now, I'm going to leave it here in A tier. Alright, moving up, we have the guard dog with the laser. And this one, I'm going to put into A tier as well. Because when you use this, you're going to notice the amount of kills you get at the end of the round is going to be just absolutely huge. This thing will kill like 200 or even 250 enemies on its own, which is absolutely massive, and it works really well as a Shrieker defender and a Hunter defender and a Stalker defender offer, because it will engage those enemies and let you know of their presence. Often, you know, they are off your screen. So this thing will start shooting and you'll look and there's a hunter there, and this thing killed it before it jumped you and started hitting you. So that is very, very, very good. I would recommend this over the shield that is going to go into S tier in planets where there's lots of hunters. Now the shield is also extremely good because it will block those attacks, and it will also stop you from getting slowed down from the effect of the bile spewers and the bile spitters, or whatever they're called. That is absolutely massive. This thing will basically make you immune to crowd control. So that alone makes it really good. It pairs extremely well with something like the grenade launcher because it's going to prevent you from getting yourself blown up, which is a thing that happens. And overall, it's the safer pick over the guard dog. The guard dog can also unintentionally either kill you or your teammates. The shield generator is not going to do that. So yeah, overall, shield generator, the more consistent pick, the one I would pick especially in a planet where there's lots of enemies that shoot acid at you. But the guard dog is definitely very effective at what it does and can be a real help when you're dealing with lots of smaller enemies. Next up, we have the guard dog, but the one that shoots, and this one is gonna go into D tier. It's just a worse version of the laser one, so there's not a lot to say. It's just worse. It doesn't have the same uptime. It doesn't seem to deal enough damage to compensate for it, so definitely, you know, not as effective. Next up, we have the ballistic shield. This is worse than bad. You basically don't want to use this. This will reduce your mobility. It won't really help on anything. It's just overall not something you want to bring against the bugs. It's not a bug stratagem. The supply pack. This is gonna go into C tier, maybe even B tier, because of a couple of reasons. One is that it pairs extremely well with the grenade launcher. I would say if you want to bring a supply pack, then you must bring a grenade launcher with it, because removing the ammo restriction from the grenade launcher means you are absolutely, like, by far the biggest source of firepower on the battlefield. And that is just, it cannot be understated, because you can shoot so many rounds that deal so much damage so fast and just not have to worry about basically running out of ammo ever with the supply pack. So this thing is just absolutely insane with the grenade launcher. Now the problem that it has is that it prevents you from using the better backpacks, basically. But the other benefit that it does have is that this thing will restore your stims and your grenades. So if you're going, for example, on a planet against the bile spewers, the grenades are very, very effective against them, because one grenade on the back and they blow up. That is massive. So if you're using something like in armor that has +2 grenades, and then you carry the supply pack, suddenly you have access to, 14 grenades, which is insane. And that's gonna make you very, very effective at just dealing with everything that's not a Bile Titan or a Charger. So you're kind of a one-man army there. Alright, next up we have the jetpack, and this thing is going into D tier. It's okay. You know, it can get you out of trouble sometimes, and it can position you on a rock or something, and you can shoot from there, and it's fine. But, you know, there are better options, and the big problem it has against the bugs is that there's lots of enemies that fly and leap at you, and it's not going to prevent them from doing that. So you might jump onto somewhere, and then you get jumped by a hunter. So what did you accomplish? Really not much at all, right? Alright, now let's move on to the Eagle Strikes. The standard Eagle Strike, this thing is absolute S tier. And there's multiple reasons for this. Number one, it's very good at just killing things, right? It can even kill a Charger if it kind of lands a headshot with it. And it will 100% very reliably kill medium armor units like the Bile Spewers, like the Guardians. It can kill the Stalker nests. That's the other thing. This thing can destroy nests, so that makes it extremely useful for fighting the bugs, because there's always nests around that you want to just destroy as fast as possible. This thing allows you to do that, so it's very, very good, and it's reliable. You get 3 uses out of it when it's maxed out. That is a lot of use for a single stratagem. It's up, you know, the cooldown once you use all 3 chargers is like 2 minutes, so it's very, very powerful. At just being able to have this at any given moment, it's huge. The contrast to that is the cluster bomb, which is going to go into C tier. These appear similar at first, but then you realize that the cluster bomb, yes, it covers a larger area, but it doesn't reliably kill medium armor units. So you can just use that, and you will see the Bile Spewers just keep charging at you, or, you know, like a Stalker or other enemies just don't really die reliably to it. So that makes it not as effective. Yes, you have more charges, you have 5 charges total, but it also cannot destroy objectives. So it cannot kill nests, it can't destroy the broadcast tower like the Eagle can. It's just a worse Eagle Strike that has a wider area of effect, and that extra area of effect does not compensate for the fact that it does not have the utility that the Eagle Strike has, and it doesn't deal as much damage as the Eagle Strike does. Alright, next up we have the 500 kilogram bomb. This is going into A tier. This thing is just a very versatile weapon to have. You can use it to kill Bile Titans, you can use it to kill Chargers, you can use it to clear up large amounts of enemies and destroy objectives with it as well. It's not super good at destroying the nests because you really need to land it. Now they kind of fixed the blast radius, so it's a bit more reliable than it was before, but it's still not, you know, as good as something like the Eagle for that. And it can be a bit of a hit or miss. Like, you can shoot one at a Bile Titan and have it explode right on it, and it doesn't kill them. So because of that lack of reliability, it's going into A tier. Otherwise, it would probably go into S tier. Alright, next up, we have the napalm and the strafing runs, and these are just bad. These are just not effective. Like, maybe I could see an argument, maybe go into D tier, but not really. You know, the napalm strike kills a few enemies, but doesn't prevent them from going through the fire, which I think, you know, hopefully it's something that they tweak in the future. But even still, again, there's lots of bugs that jump, so it's not going to prevent them from jumping at you. If anything, it's actually going to obscure them. The strafing run is not effective. It does not kill medium armor units. So, you know, you use it and there's still a bunch of enemies left. The deadlier enemies are left. So that's, you know, kind of the opposite of what you want. So these are just, yeah, straight up bad. The 110 rocket pods, it's going to go into D tier. You can use it to damage Bile Titans pretty effectively, but it's not gonna one-shot them, and it will often, you know, just miss its mark. But when it hits, it does deal decent damage, so it's slightly better than either of these, but it's still not very good. Straight up bad is the smoke barrage. This thing, I've tested this, and this is gonna, the orbital one is also gonna go there. This is worse than bad because this will actually aggro bugs because they will see the cloud of smoke and then they will run at you through the cloud of smoke. So it literally does nothing except draw attention to you. So both of them really bad, very ineffective. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They just don't work, and just don't bring them. Alright, moving on to the orbital barrages and strikes, we have the laser, and this is going to go into A tier. This is what I like calling the get out of jail free card, because this thing will just destroy so many enemies, and it will also kill chargers and bile titans, though very, very slowly. So ideally you want to take care of those on your own so the laser doesn't get wasted on a single enemy. But it will stagger them quite a lot. Like, it will prevent chargers from basically moving. So that is very, very good. It's basically the stratagem that you want to throw when things are going really bad and you need an exit. This is going to give you that exit. The problem, though, with it is you only have 3 uses. So you got to be very, very strategic on when you're going to use it, and on longer missions, you're gonna run out by the time you get to the end. So that is one less stratagem you have at the end of the fight, usually, right? So yeah, very good at getting you out of sticky situations. That's why it's going into A tier, but otherwise it does have some issues. Alright, next up we have the rail cannon strike, and this thing is going into C tier. I could see an argument for this being into B tier, but it's not A tier, it's not S tier. And the reason for that is it has a very, very long cooldown. And what this does is basically one charger kill or one severely damaged bile titan, or maybe it will one-shot them. But it doesn't happen as frequently as it should. And like what? You're getting 1 kill. Any other stratagem that's listed here gets you 2, like the 500 kilogram bomb, that's 2 chargers dead. The Eagle Strike, that's also maybe a charger dead. The EAT, that's 2 chargers dead. You know, so it's just not, it's not as effective as the other ones in terms of its cooldown. However, there is a lot of value at being able to instantly destroy an enemy, right? Like, I instantly need this charger to die, or to reduce, like there's 5 chargers, we need to get rid of at least 1 right now. That's when you use the rail cannon, and it's very good at doing that. But again, yeah, it's going into C tier. Alright, next up we have the barrages, and these are all gonna go into D tier. And I've tried to like these, I've tried to enjoy using them, and I kinda do. I could see an argument for maybe even putting this down here, because the walking barrage, it's less effective than these other 2. These 2 can be used to clear out bug nest locations and just large groups of enemies, but it takes, they last too long because, you know, they start shooting and they don't really hit the nests that often. Very often you're gonna need to move in after and destroy the nests that remain, but to do that you're gonna have to wait a long time. And these can get you very easy TKs, and they need to be a bit more focused and a bit more faster, like, you know, less prolonged time to these. These are very effective against the automatons because the targets are larger. Like, usually the factories you need to destroy a lot larger than the bug nests that you need to hit. So you need to hit more precisely, right? So yeah, just not very effective. The walking barrage, it whatever, you know, it shoots a couple of rounds into the area that you want to shoot, and then it just goes away off into the distance. So it's, yeah, it's not very good. Might be good if you're running away from a bunch of bugs to throw it behind you, but again, it's just gonna overshoot a lot of them. It's whatever. It's yeah, they're not very good. The Gatling gun, this is just bad. You know, it kills a few enemies, doesn't really kill the mediums. Yeah, it's whatever. I actually am gonna put this here, right? Because these 2, if you're gonna bring one of these 3, bring these 2 before you bring this one. The Orbital Burst, this is also D tier. It covers a large area, doesn't really kill the mediums all that effectively, is fine. It doesn't have, you know, the worst cooldown, but it's also not very good. And it just overkills sometimes, because sometimes, you know, if there's just smaller enemies, with the first shot, they're already dead. With the second and third shot, you're often just wasting your time. You're just waiting for it to end, because the other enemies are either not dead or they've just moved elsewhere. Same goes for the precision strike. This thing is very hard to land, and, you know, when it does land, it's good. It can kill the charger and, you know, be effective at that, but there's so many better options to do what this thing does. The EMS Orbital Strike is also going to go into D tier. You can very effectively pair this with the 500 kilogram bomb, so you freeze a couple of chargers, then you shoot a 500 kilogram bomb into that area and instant, like, absolute destruction. But it's hard to land. Like, sometimes the area that it covers is just not big enough. So you might be better off with the EMS mortar, though the EMS mortar will often not hit the targets that you want to hit. So, you know, that's another problem. But this thing is kind of unreliable, hit or miss sometimes. Alright. Next up, we have the gas. This thing is bad. You can throw it at something like a bug breach and maybe get some utility out of it, but most of the bugs are going to be unaffected. Like, they're still going to be alive by the time they leave the area. So this might even go into worse than bad, but, you know, I'm going to put it on bad. It's whatever. It's not, it just doesn't deal enough damage, and yeah, it's not very good. Kind of a similar thing are the line mines, which are a bit more effective, so they're all going to go into D tier, both of them. But the problem with the landmines is that if you use them to block like a corridor, a lot of the mines will go unexploded, because the bugs will just clear a way through the mines, exploding those mines and dying to them, and the next bugs that are behind those will just go through them, right, and not trigger the other ones. The other problem is if a charger comes just charging along, it's going to destroy all your mines and not really do anything. So these things, they're good. I like throwing them on bug breaches, like right on top of them or right between the bug breach and you, and that's going to get a few kills. But there's better options, you know, like basically every other thing that you can call in is going to be better. So yeah, they're just not very effective. I really try to enjoy these, and it's just nah. This is the shield generator. This is worse than bad, because the bugs will just walk through this, and this requires you to sit in a single area. It restricts your movement, basically. Like, yes, it will block the shots from the bile spewers, but it's not going to block them for very long, and while it is blocking them, you can't really move anywhere. So just way better to just have the shield generator pack on your back and, you know, just have that. Alright, then we have the autocannon, and this is going to be a bit controversial. I'm going to put this into B tier. No, it's going to go into C tier. This thing is really good. Hear me out here. It's really good. It can absolutely destroy chargers, and it will deal a lot of damage to Bile Titans. Like, it will decimate Bile Titan. Maybe it's actually going into B tier. The problem with it is that it's extremely unreliable. Like, very, very unreliable. Very often, there's going to be a charger rushing directly at this turret, and this thing is going to be shooting hunters that are 100 meters away, right? It's going to ignore, it does not have a correct targeting priority, and that very, very often means you drop it down, it doesn't do what you wanted it to do, like kill a charger or kill a Bile Titan, and then it goes away, right? So that is just a wasted stratagem. So I'm gonna leave it here in B tier, but it can definitely go to C tier. It's really good when it works, but when it doesn't work, it's so bad, right? This thing can even TK you very easily. It can destroy the exosuit very easily, so it's a very, very tricky weapon to use. Again, it can be effective, but it's very unreliable. All right, next up we have the EMS mortar, and this thing is going to go into C tier. I can see the argument for this going into B tier, but again, very, very unreliable. Let's put it into C tier. The thing with this is that you need to defend this, right? Because it will get attacked, it will draw aggro from enemies around it, and it will get destroyed. And it's not usually targeting the enemies that you want to target. So if there's a charger that's running around, this thing will shoot and often miss the charger because the shot will land behind the charger because it's already moved. And it's gonna land, or it's gonna target smaller enemies that move slower, like bile spewers maybe, and the medium armor ones, and it's gonna freeze them in place but not kill them. And the problem with that, the main problem that does not make this very good, is that this thing will shoot at bugs that are very far away and that have not seen you and you don't want to aggro, and it will draw them to you because it's just going to freeze them and then they're going to come towards you, right? So this thing, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's good when it works, again, same with the autocannon, but the autocannon is a bit more consistent because at least it kills things, right? At least it destroys the enemies that it's targeting. While this thing doesn't really do anything against Bile Titans, and it has all those problems I already mentioned. Alright, next up we have the Gatling Sentry. This thing is D tier. It deals damage, fine. Same as the rocket one, actually. Like, these are not as good as the autocannon, basically. This thing will not really kill, you know, the heavier units. Its uptime is not very good. The machine gun actually is going to go into E tier here because it's just a worse Gatling gun. So all of these, yeah, just not very effective. The problem the turrets have primarily versus the bugs is that if a bug jumps onto them or a charger just sees them, they are gone, right? And you don't get enough use out of them. They're also not very useful in some biomes like the forests, or, you know, more like they are geography dependent, right? And you don't always have that advantage or that situation to use them correctly. So overall, I would not recommend you take turrets to bugs, like to fight the Terminids, because they all suffer from the same flaws, right? The mortar is going to go into bad because, yes, it's actually good. You know, it does kill things and it kills them fast, but the amount of times that you're going to get jumped by bugs and this thing is going to shoot at that bug and kill you instead, and maybe kill another party member, that's going to happen very, very often. So the fact that you cannot control where this is targeting is very, very bad. The HMG is also going to go into bad. You know, it will shoot and destroy a lot of things. Like, it has a ton of firepower, but you're going to remain still. And if again, same problem, right? Lack of mobility against the bugs will get you swarmed. And that's not something you want to happen. Against tougher enemies like the Bile Titan, you can't really do anything with this. Against a charger, you're just going to get charged and destroyed. Against the bile spewers, they're just going to shoot at you and, again, kill you. So it's not very good. And lastly, this is the last one. This is going to go into D tier. This is the Tesla Tower. It is okay. It has killing potential, and you can actually control an area with it. It's actually... it's actually better than the mines, so it shouldn't be in the same category as the mines, right? Are the mines just bad? Yeah, the mines are just bad. Yeah, let's fix that. Yeah, the mines are just bad. So this is sort of effective. It can, you know, it has a very, very long uptime. It will eventually get charged or something and destroyed, but it's good. It can be effective. It's not as good as other stuff, right? And that's, again, one of the main issues. But it is kind of as effective as all of these, so yeah, I'm okay with it. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna obviously work on a same tier list for the automatons, because it's going to be very, very different from this thing. It's going to almost be, well, some of the stuff is going to be very inverted, but that's it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope I will catch you in the next one.